I know. Send them to me.
Oh yeah, I still owe you some, don't
I miss you. I miss you, CK. So at least I could get a sticker.
Get this one, get this one, get this one.
Welcome to the What the Heck. Hopefully you can hear me because everything's messed up in this new room. But new room. Today we have Bartok, CK, and Stu in the Heck House, I guess. Yeah, let's do super fast intros. Like, who are you, and what are the most takes you've done on, like, trying to record a track? Let's start with Bartok. Let's just go clockwise.
I can't hear Bartok.
We can't hear
Yeah.
Bartok at all.
Oh, sorry about that. I muted myself while I was trying to
So
finish my
two
breakfast.
takes on answering this question.
Right. My name is Bartok, and I can't follow instructions. And most takes, boy, I don't know. I'd say if I don't have something after like the 10th take, I give up and move on.
Oh, yeah. One of the 10 is
Yeah.
probably good enough, right?
Right.
CK, how many? You got?
So I did 3 takes for my modular world because me and Jono were going back and forth on it. Normally just 1 take, always. Recently I've been trying to, my goal for this year is to actually do a produced track, so I've been working on figuring out exactly how I want to organize that track, and that's resulted in a bunch of practice runs, but not really. I just did my first, okay, I've set everything up in the Akai Force and everything else to record the take, and I did a full take through. But I did like 2 takes previously where I'd sent copies of it to Travarsi, and I was like, hey, does this suck? Do I need to add this here? I know my levels are off on this, and was just getting feedback. So I guess 3? About 3. 3. How many layers of a Tootsie Roll Pop? Anyway.
I think three is appropriate for CK sample the third. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, Stu J. Usually not too many, but for January, I did January this year, and for some of them I did. I put my piano into modular, into a little modular skiff on top of the piano, And for those, some of them were 10 or 15, but that was because I messed up playing. I made mistakes or I didn't like how it sounded. So for me, the most is probably 10 or 15. But
And
if
then
it's
there's the one day
straight modular, I'll just one or two. What's that, CK?
There's the one day of January where you cheated and you used your pre-recording from Modular World to qualify.
That was not a cheat for two reasons. It was recorded in January, and I did record something else that day that I didn't post. So,
calling people out within 5 minutes.
On X7, I make bad music, and I think the most that I've done is it's got to be up around 15, and it's got to be a tie between. I did a set for New York Modular Society, where I was playing 3 different sort of tracks on the pyramid, because the pyramid has a you can't load another project, and I ran out of sequences essentially, so. Instead of fumbling through it live, which I normally would do fine, I felt the need to re-record. So that one was probably 15 or so takes. Or the 3-minute 3-module challenge earlier this year, I took a ton of takes on that goofy ass little 2-module thing. Yeah, I hate re-recording. There's always that one thing I want to do, and if I miss it, or you go to do the drop and you're a half a second late, so that first kick misses. Death.
Yeah.
By the way, heck, I've never seen your setup. I've never seen your setup with the lights on. I don't think.
This is a different room.
Is it a different room? I was gonna say it looks totally different.
Yeah. There's no. You notice there's no vents above my modular, and all of that. I'm actually not.
The washing machine's gone.
My ass off. Yeah, the washing machine's gone. So I took the tape off of that and painted it on this road case I'm building. Just for continuity, I guess.
Looks good.
Yeah. So and this light, most of the light is coming from a window. The light in here actually really sucks. It's worse. Partly because if I stand up straight under it, I will hit the lamp. You notice the bulbs are exposed because the dish that normally covers it was broken by my head.
Oh man. Rock and roll.
Yeah.
Yeah. The take I just did before this, I actually set it up so I multi-tracked everything, as many of the stems as it made sense to, into the Akai Force. So theoretically, I should have the mix down and each of the individual tracks recorded into the Force that I could then drop into Ableton or on the Force and fiddle with. But I'm not sure if I set it up right. I gotta check later. We'll see.
That's rough. I mean, for a long time, I recorded all of my stuff on the Zoom L12 multi-tracked as much as possible. And ultimately, I found out that in every instance, I just take the mix out and upload it because I don't care.
Yeah, the mix out I had going back in, because now I'm using the Zone mixer externally to do all my mixing, and so the mix out from the Zone, it has a straight record out left-right jack that I had piped straight back into my 4MS wave recorder that's in rack. So that's it's basically like a little handy Zoom recorder, but it's built into my rack. So just, record straight the whole stereo set. And that's what I just uploaded to eMastered.
CK, are you recording directly into the Force's arranger, or are you recording into clips?
Into arranger. So what I do is I basically set up my full, the part of the performance that is in the Force, which right now I am using the Force. On this track, I was using the Force for drums, basically, and I was not using the Queen of Pentacles like I normally use. And I've got it set up where the Queen of Pentacles is kick and the rest of it in 2 tracks in the Zone, and I can switch basically the USB in from the Force, so I can either have the Force drums, kick, and extra drums in those same 2 lanes, or I can switch over to analog and do the Queen of Pentacles whatever. So
That's primo.
so on the Force, I have audio tracks set up that are pulling in the raw audio from the Zone, because the Zone has 2 audio cards in it, and so I'm using one of those audio cards as the thing to hook it up into the Chi Force, so that both it sends stuff to the Chi Force. So I'm mixing things directly from the Force into the Zone, and then also it's acting as an audio interface recording back into the Force.
Do you use the clip functions much in the Force?
Sometimes, basically, when I'm doing when I want to create a bunch of loops, I use the clip functions more than anything else. Like if I'm trying to, build samples or do some loops, but I haven't done as much of that recently because I've been trying to do more of the performative Eurorack and drums or flow, and just recording that out into Ranger mode. Although I don't think the mix recorded properly in the Ranger mode, so I'm glad I had the backup of the 4MS sampler there. So
yeah, your workflow seems to be coming together really nicely.
Yeah, theoretically, I should be able to box all this up, go to an actual place, perform, and record the whole live while I'm performing, and have a whole copy of everything. That's ideally what I want to get this to.
That's cool.
I've got a huge for that.
Should we talk about? I mean, we have a limited time with CK today, before we lose you for the day. Hapax? I can't pronounce the name of it. Hapax.
Hapax. How would French people say it? Like scorpion.
I think that's what we gotta call it.
Yeah, right? Hot box.
It's probably
to Jeremy from Redmead's recording. Because it's the duochronic sequencer or whatever. Polychronic? Yeah, polychronic. Yeah, so that is out, and I know at least the left half of the screen is really fired up about it. But I feel like we could talk about sequencers, because there's some interesting stuff. Bartok's gone through like a ton of in-the-box sequencers that I know of. Stu J has the perfect sequencer, sort of. And clearly CK and I are unhappy with all sequencers.
That's not true. I have the same perfect sequencer Stu J has that I really like. I just was like, once I saw the Hotbox announced, I was like, oh, I gotta try that thing. It just looks fun. Because part of my heart will always be in love with the old school Tenorion that came out, and I like one of the things I like about the Vector is using the grid with it to program it just like a Tenorion, and the Hotbox is like a big Tenorion, plus it has sort of an A/B lanes thing in terms of you can have two totally different copies of what you're doing that you can switch between, that matches up with the A/B-ness that's in both the Force and in the Zone in the DJ mixers approach that I'm taking. So I'm like, with all that, I was like, yeah, let's get it. Like nobody, like it's gonna, like I had the funds to do it, and I was like, if I don't like it, I'll be able to sell it, no problem. And I can probably use it with the Vector and do some really cool things. I'm surprised Stu J hasn't bought one yet.
CK is trying to get me to buy gear. Yeah, I'm not buying anything in 2022. I don't have the perfect sequencer yet. I have the perfect combination of sequencers. I don't have the one perfect. So right now, I've used a lot. But what I'm using primarily now is one of 3. So the easiest thing to jump to, if I'm just doing something quick and dirty, is the Pittsburgh Lifeforms Micro Sequence B. I mean, it's like the best of the original Metropolis, I think, minus, and it's a quarter of the size. So that's the quick and dirty one. For in-the-box sequencing and generative, exploratory, experimental stuff, Vector, plus its percussion is a ton of fun with the Launchpad. So I do a lot of, live performance of percussion with Vector. For melodic, I'm kind of on Digitact now, playing keyboard into that, or programming melody into that, and then with a MIDI to CV converter, I happen to use Shuttle Control, getting melody on the Eurorack. Because I find with Vector, it excels at evolution, generative, that type of thing. But for intentional melody, I still have difficulty with it. I know that now, going back a couple months now, there have been some changes to the firmware where you can record off grid, and I'll confess I haven't really tried it yet. But I still find that nothing kind of beat. I sold it, but nothing beat the KeyStep Pro for me when it came to like intentional melody, which is recording something into it.
Yeah, you're a keys guy too, though, so you can play.
Yeah.
I'm like me coming at it from power chord guitarist. What is it? There it is. You point the right direction. There it is. Power chord guitarist, and not really like I can hear things and go like that sounds good, but I can't read music or anything like that. One of the things that interests me about the hapach, I'm going to say it that way because it's French. The one thing that interests me about it is it actually tells you, like you can not only can you set it up with a quantizer and everything, but it tells you what you're playing. Like if you play a chord, it tells you on screen live what. And I'm like, I could actually learn something. Let me get this thing. I could learn something, So that part of it really made me go, oh, cool. I need this no matter what because it'll help me get better at putting this stuff together. Because right now, I'd say the Vector actually is really good at melodies because I can dial in notes and I know what the letters mean and how to sound. Although I don't have all the although I don't know the keys part of it. So being able to dial stuff in is really cool on the Vector. But I found myself, it's very similar to, I used to have the ER 101 and 102, and it's very similar in terms of you can do really rich compositions and dial things in, but there's some work to it. There's less work than there was on the ER 101 and 102, where you really have to develop a lot of muscle memory to figure out how to do everything there, whereas the Vector is much more immediate. But it doesn't feel like I'm playing it because I am dialing it in. So having something like the hapach to to play on in a pads tutorial sort of way and learn stuff seems cool.
Yeah, I want to loop back to the learning stuff. Bartok, what are you using for sequencers currently?
The Erica Synths Black sequencer. I use that for all my melodic stuff, and then combined with WMD Metron for the triggers.
That's a solid combo, I think. I mean, that's what's on my list. I just got the Metron, and clearly I don't know what I'm doing with it because it's only been in there for like a day, but I'm really excited to start messing with that, and the ES Black will soon be following, I hope.
I had Black sequencer and loved it before I got the Vector and the drum sequencer, and I love the drum sequencer. I sold the Black sequencer. The Vector can do what both those sequencers can do together, except not as many outs as the drum sequencer. And I kept the drum sequencer.
The Vector's only two CV, 2 gate, right?
Well, with the
Without
expander, yeah. With the expander, you get you can have 2 drum tracks basically that'll cover 8 drum patterns, and then 8 drum signals, and then what is it? 6 CV outs, other with velocity as well as gate and CV.
There it is with the expander and then the new black panel.
So is the expander that just a shitload of jacks on the left?
Correct, and the MIDI
Sockets,
and the MIDI ports. Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
Sorry about the lighting, folks.
Hey, no worries. Yeah, I mean, that's cool. I should look up the Vector just out of curiosity.
Check out Jim Coker's on the 512 YouTube channel. Jim Coker did a series of deep dives that are with very special guests. One of them was me, but no, they're great. I learned a lot about them.
All right, so the hotbox, the chord mode, or not chord mode, but the fact that when I hit some random pads on there and get a chord that I don't know the name of, and it's like, this is a blah blah blah. That's pretty cool to me, because if anyone watching in the future has ever played a guitar or learned the guitar, you don't learn this is this, chord. You're like power chord, boop, 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 and, you just play the shit out of it. Like I was both excited and let down in high school when I started guitar that every song that I wanted to play was like the same chord. Like it's like the same chord, different progression, all the time. Yeah, I don't even know what it is. It's just a what, fifth or something? I don't know. See, clearly don't know. And you guys have. Ooh, that's a good question. Uh, Zoe Meets World is asking about the M8 tracker and sequencer.
Yeah, I had one. I had one for a hot second, but I didn't. The tracker mentality does not work in my head, like doing a tracker type of sequencing. So I ended up trading it with Travarsi for her OPZ, which has been cool.
Oh, I'm thinking of doing the opposite. Like my Z is getting some dust, and I've been playing with some Game Boy tracker type things and wasting money basically. And my buddy Steven, all my friends are synths. That guy is like, just get the M8.
Oh yeah,
Like, stop.
It's really cool.
that guy's awesome.
Yeah. So I pre-ordered it. I'll get it in July, and I assume if I like it, because of the way it's built and sort of, I think clamshell PCBs similar to Basel or something. If I really like it, I would build a Cosmo adapter and make it a primary sequencer. But we'll see. Maybe a secondary. I'm not sure.
And it's just one guy making them, right?
It is. It is a Trash 80, I think, and.
Yeah.
There's some really cool bits to it that appeal to me. One, the tracker is a new flow. Like that's not something that I particularly have enjoyed playing in terms of like live. Like I like being able to sort of switch mute groups and things like that. And the tracker stuff I've used before haven't been able to do that. This seems like it may be able to do it. But if not, it'll just be a glorified sampler because I really wanted something small that handles stereo samples that I can play like a piano, and that I can have basically an unlimited amount of samples in there that I could swap between really easily. The reason is I like oscilloscope music, and I don't want to like do it through my computer.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about it on multiple fronts. It's got some like cool stuff in there. I got some various like chip tuning synths, and there's some mutable instruments, voices in there too. Yeah. Some people have had issues getting MIDI over USB. I don't know that I would need MIDI over USB. That's the thing I'm not sure about, and I won't know until I have hands-on. I think it does have like TRS jacks for MIDI out and in, so I'm hoping it plays well with like my favorite MIDI is like the stupid MIDI cables that are huge. MIDI over USB has been very unkind to me.
How does it? Has anyone here used the M8, whatever? And the NerdSec, which I think that's also a tracker style, right?
The NerdSec is a tracker style. It's on my list, but I think that's something that if I like get annoyed at one of the sequencers I have, I'll swap it out and sell it for and pick up a NerdSec because that does seem like a good balance of M8 and Euro rack.
Yeah, that's on my list for early next year just to dig into.
I like the expanders too.
With list now, CJ.
It's not too big. Okay, my gas list for 2023, honestly, doing this no new gear experiment has been kind of eye-opening. I've identified what I want, but also really what I need. And what I need that I don't have, and I used to have, I've had a bunch of them, is a standalone dedicated quantizer. Not the giant one that I used to have that killed my workflow. My fault, not its fault. But just like I don't know, the ADAC or maybe the new Shackmat, something with, I have an Ornament and Crime and it works. The Quantermain works, but it's just very menu-y and not really performative for that reason. So quantizer, and then NerdSec, a couple things from Instro, honestly, like utilities that I saw Antone using that seemed really handy. And then I'd like to get a sequential OB6 synth. That's non-Eurorack, but we could set that aside.
Yeah. Right. That's okay. Yeah.
Uh,
Talk. What's on your wish list? Let's go over current wish lists.
Yeah, I don't have anything on my wish list. I've been, I recently tried that Hummingbird triple wave oscillator.
Yeah.
And I wasn't too happy with it. Mostly the biggest thing is like it's a digital oscillator, so it's tuned to C, and you can't change that.
You can't like micro tune it. Like you can't match whatever pitch your other stuff is.
Right. So and then I replaced it with the Starling Oscillator 3, which I just got last week, so I'm still trying to learn it. But other than that, my focus is just to figure this out, and I'd like to get a long set prepared, so I need to work on that.
I think a long set is hard to do. Like, let's loop back around to that. It's one of the reasons I'm really excited about the Haypacks is being able to load up projects while I'm playing a project. Yeah. CK, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, yeah, I'm working on a long set too, like, because I'm supposed to play. There's a charity thing in Austin on April 20th that I'm going to play. So if anybody's in Austin on April 20th and wants to play as part of a thing, it's for we'll be performing for a bunch of homeless people who are being fed by us at the same time. I'm going to be playing. We'll have some sort of amphitheater. All the stuff's just coming together for the planning of it right now. But I'm looking for volunteers to play alongside me. So let me know. Hit me up if you're in the neighborhood and want to. It's a Wednesday, so it's weird timing. But
yeah, it could be a fun road trip. But I don't know. I am preparing for my first, in-person set ever, which is why there's that big smiley face right there. Is because I need to bring like something like this stuff. Like this is the bottom half of that case. So I'm like building a way to transport it, set up quickly. But yeah, long sets are hard. Like I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like I have to get creative with fills because currently on the pyramid, when I load up a new song, playback stops. Or worse, stutters or something crazy, right? So I can either do like that, like rock star thing where you talk to the crowd while trying to like when you dial a knob in an encoder, like how's everybody doing? like Grandpa Heck over here, and the Haypacks may resolve that. We'll see, but or I can get creative and like hit the mega drone in between, and keep some audio going.
Or get a hype man to jump around.
I gotta get a hype man. Yes, that's on my wish list for gear.
How many tracks do you have on like the pyramid even? Because like the way I have set up my system now to be able to play a longer set is and it's largely because I'm using a DJ mixer. So now I have like 2 lanes in the DJ mixer that are fed by these 2 switches that I bought. They're called they're the Bear. What are they called? There's switch with a 2 in it. It's Bear Modular, I think is their name. Yeah. They're just manual switches, one stereo to 4 stereo ins, or reverse. You can do it either way. And so I have 2 of those, and so I have basically 4 different options on one stereo out going into one of the channels of the mixer, and then I got another 4 options going into another stereo out, and then I have those set up in the mixer as A/B that I crossfade between, so I can like have, have lane. I can basically have track A with 2 totally different things running in sequence on those 2 things, and have it, and crossfade from 1 to 2, and then switch 1 to go to B. And then crossfade back over there, and switch 2 to go to B, and then cross switch over there. And so that gives me the ability to basically have a whole pyramid of different leads that are going just through a few sequences that are running that I pre-programmed that I can ping pong between, and then it's just a matter of changing up the drums on the fly and switching up some sort of bass line that I have going separately, you know. So that's the way I'm kind of trying to manage it right now in plotting out how do I do like hour-long performances versus rambling 40 minutes of CK just experimenting.
Right, exactly. Like I think online and streaming, I'm totally comfortable streaming like essentially the same song, right? Like for an hour. Like I'm fine with that. It's fun. I think for something in person, I need to do a little, a little more than that. So to answer your question more directly, the pyramid has 32 different tracks, which is twice as many as on the Hapax, right? I typically only use around 11 of them. Usually less. But 11 have stuff that I regularly use. The limitation, in per track, you have patterns. By default, it's set up so it's just one pattern per track, but you do this little hotkey thing, and all of a sudden you open up the ability to do, I think, you have 32 patterns per track that I can switch between. And then the thing that's really the biggest limitation for me is essentially the song mode or sequence mode. On that, I have 32 possible sequences, which you can think of as like MIDI mute groups, right? Like if I hit the first one, it's got like whatever patterns and stuff on or off for like an intro, and like, you know, somewhere in the middle is like some climaxy stuff. Like you can change everything. Sort of similar to what you saw with the Hotbox workflow, but it's limited to 32, and that's where I hit a wall. With 32, if I'm doing fast-paced music, which people get tired of faster, like I can't do like 160 BPM, same track for like 20 minutes. It gets a little repetitive, without getting super creative with like audio modulation, that kind of stuff. It means I'm down to about 20 to 30 minutes before I have to change projects. I could try, like, there's a really clever workaround that you're sort of inspired, where I have a MIDI out A and MIDI out B, and I could set up a basically mirror set of tracks and their own patterns, and, you know, either build or get like a MIDI switcher, right? Like, and I could switch between A to B instantly and like be on like essentially a second song in the same song, you know, and that would get me a little further for sure. I didn't think about that. That's smart. But as far as like mixing from A to B, that's a little trickier, because I tend to use like Cosmo's big and clunky, and there's not a lot of like like it's a big machine with essentially like 3 voices or something. So like, yeah. So I don't know. I'm hoping the Hapax solves all my problems, because I'm really excited with the 2 projects at once thing for 2 reasons. One, I can just like seamlessly go into the next song without pausing, and 2, the idea of like, I don't know if you've listened to like, or been to, if you're lucky, like a Daft Punk concert or something like that, where they're remixing their own tracks together. And the Hapax sort of allows that from like a MIDI standpoint. That's pretty cool to me to be able to sort of do that, play both at once. So I'm curious to see what I can do with that stuff. And another person pointed out, because you can load 2 projects at once, like if I run out of tracks, I can just load up a second, like, you know, sibling project and add more tracks. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it works in terms of maybe being something that hands-on I can use to control both things in the modular and the Akai Force. Like right now, I use the Akai Force and I use the modular, or I use the Akai Force sometimes to control the modular, but the Akai Force, just because of how I find myself doing more jumping around to different views of the Akai Force to do things like record and stuff, then I use it very performatively. And I'm wondering if this will allow me to be more performative with the Akai Force than I am right now. Like, So I don't know. That just may be me not practicing the Kai Force performatively as much as I can, because like Stu J rocked it out in my hotel room at NobCon, and I was like, oh, he actually played it, and then he got one.
And then I got one, and I have not recaptured that magic yet. I'm still wrestling with it. Still wrestling with that damn Akai Force. A love-hate
I
relationship
think,
for sure.
like, my biggest beef with sequencers is like thinking about playing live, and and any like it's I don't mind menu diving for stuff that's like set and forget, like, you know, setting your MIDI configuration or shit. But like, if I want to do stuff performatively, that should be pretty fast. I'm hoping the Hapax is pretty good. The Pyramid is okay at that. Hapax is a little more visible what you're doing. I don't know. I think my favorite's the OPZ though. Like, you've tried it now at CK. Like, I love the effects. Like, they're my favorite part of it. Like, the synths in it are like okay. I've tried a bunch of them, and you know, you can make them sound good, but like the filter's okay. Like, everything is okay. Sampler's pretty good. But like, performance effects are like the magic for me, where you can do like tape loop stuff instantly. You can do stutters, like you know, all sorts of like build up effects. Like, it's super cool, and I would love more sequencers to focus on that. Like, the most I've seen, like the typical like bottom of the barrel effects that you get with any sequencer I've tried is like a loop or like note repeat.
Well, you know, speaking of the Akai Force, then, if you think about its price, and now I'll be on the love side of it instead of the hate side of it. First of all, it's an extremely powerful sequencer. It's got CV out, and it's got all those effects and more because it's, you know, part of the Akai MPC family. Really worth considering, especially for the price. If you think about other things that cost $1,000 or $1,100 in Eurorack versus what you're getting with the Force, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, like every time I want to buy a new piece of gear, I'm like, but wait, use the Force to do that. Like, anything that's not Eurorack, like, everything that, like, I mean, honestly, like every single, because recently I was watching somebody had like a 909, a new 909, like a rebuild of an old school 909, and I was like, but I can literally load up a dozen different 909 sound packs, you know, and play them just like a 909, and like do, you know, and it's like there's so many options with the Force, it's ridiculous. So I'm kind of like, I've started to like really, and I started using it for drums too, because I realized, you know, just using the Queen of Pinnacles, for as much as I love it and as much variety as it does give me, that's limiting. And it's good to be limited, but like, if I want to layer on some extra drums, or if I want to layer on some interesting rhythms, I can do that without having to spend thousands of dollars on a whole extra rack that's a drum rack next to everything that I'm doing. And I can still record a bunch of the drum sounds I make on my Eurorack into samples that I put in the Force, and then all of a sudden they're easily playable, just like any old school MPC drum machine.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, the thing about the Akai Force is not, I mean, I think it's an amazing machine. It's that I have a vendetta against like pads. I hate pads.
Oh, really? Tell me about why. That's interesting. Why?
Multiple reasons. One, they're flaky. Like, they will get dusty, and I'm sure you've experienced this on some machine or another that has pads, where you start getting like double hits or worse, like missed hits or stuck notes. And that's a thing that I've seen the most with pads. I just do not like them.
Didn't you just buy the Hapach?
Yeah, and I'm looping back to that. So the reason I got the Hapach, the Hapach has pads, a zillion pads, is because I'm very familiar with the Pyramid, and it's essentially like a pro Pyramid. Like, it's an upgrade. Like, if I like it, I'll probably just like sell my
Doesn't the Pyramid have pads? I'm not buying your how much you hate pads story.
Right, but so here's my thing. I provided a lot of feedback to Scorp, whether they wanted it or not. And one of the things I kept pushing for is, continue to push for, is like, I want mechanical key switches. Like, I think the Digitact, right? Like, those are mechanical keys. Like, they're not necessarily like keyboard keys, but like they're clicky keys, right? None of them are pads. that's going to be significantly easier to maintain, clean, whatever. It's not going to break very easily. There's been a trend of people using mechanical key switches from like keyboards. I think in the same space, like if they'd made that with those, I would be much happier with it because it's not even velocity sensitive that I'm aware of. They got around that by like saying like, oh well, since we have a cajillion pads, this corner is going to be like this drum with different velocities in this rectangle. Like
the
each
force,
pad is a
the
different
force
velocity.
is fully velocity. Like
Yes.
that's one of the things about it is the velocity on the force. Like you can sit there and load up like a 16 pattern of hats and just run your finger and push down harder in different parts to do a nice variated, hats pattern, which is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why you get a
And-
deck saver to keep the dust off. To protect
I
those
should get a
things.
deck saver with this because my
Yeah.
sorry future buyers of my pyramid.
And get a vinyl strap with your face on it too, like I do.
Yeah, so Robbie has a good point too. Like the thing that I hated the most on the pyramid is actually the touch. It's actually more like a trackpad than a touch screen, but touchscreens and trackpads I don't love for a lot of different reasons. In this case, it was just super flaky, and I don't know if it was the altitude or what. And so I just thankfully the pyramid builders had like put in a thing so I could turn it off so that like when I'm playing, the screen isn't constantly getting taken over with like assign X to the trackpad, like because it thinks
So
I'm
you
touching it, but I'm
hate the
not.
force because not only is it a ton of pads, it's a touchscreen as well, and you've got to
Right, so
rely.
that's my
all you
point.
got,
Like,
you know.
I don't hate the workflow. I don't hate what it's
Yeah.
capable of. Like I think it's an amazing machine, but it's one where I definitely would need to try it for like a month
Yeah.
to see if I would jive with it, and I would definitely get a whatever deck saver, whatever you call those things. Like I have
Exactly.
no problems with anything else that doesn't have pads. It's just the pad devices, and like the Drum Brute Impact has pads, but like I don't touch them, so we're good there.
Yep.
And that
We
thing might
lost.
have
We lost CK.
Yeah, CK said he had to run early, so I don't know if that's what's happening or what. But
Okay.
yeah.
I was juggling it for a second. I'm back.
Okay. Yeah, so like I might like the Force. I don't know. I think there's a lot of functionality in there. I would really love. Like it sounds like I haven't looked into it thoroughly, but it sounds like there's like a loop mode where you can essentially do like the
Yes.
guitar thing where you like play over yourself, or like in this case you can create probably more like a Ableton Live set where you can record a bunch of loops and play them independently randomly throughout your stuff to spice things up, and that's pretty cool. Like that's hard to do.
Yeah.
The Force's sweet spot, I think, is like if you want to build a sample pack off of something that you have, it's very quick to set an 8-bar loop on or of a note playing on and have one track controlling that note playing in your modular, and then just tweak the knob a little bit and record the next one, and then tweak the knob and just hit a pad and record, and you can quickly build a whole set, and then you can take all of that and reorganize it into like an actual like MPC style like drum kit, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think I've seen people like sampling and chopping up drum tracks and things like that with an insane amount of ease on actually many of the Akai devices. So that's pretty. I'm sure that is part of it too. Like if I dropped in a drum track, I can quickly slice it up and then play the drums individually, that kind of thing.
Yeah, if you look at what's his name? I'm trying to think. Ansem, Ansome. He's like a pro DJ performer. He uses the Force and modular in his live techno sets, like an hour-long stuff, and it's impressive the way he has everything lined up and what he's doing. So.
Yeah, there's another guy. I forget his name. I'm looking for him. He's probably to me the most impressive user of the Force I've ever seen. Oh, he goes by Younger, Youngr, Youngr. Check out what he does with the Akai Force as the hub of his studio. It's ludicrous. It's wild.
That's cool. Bartok, you mentioned getting ready for like playing longer or trying to play longer performances. What kind of tricks are you doing to make that happen? Like with the Metron, you're sort of limited to You have a limited number of variations and things like that. And I think you could probably, with using all 16 tracks, like pop some jacks over to start like other sequences or something like that. But
Yeah, I
what
mean,
are you doing?
there's a lot of different tricks. You know, the variations, and then moving jacks over is one thing. The variations I find, really powerful because you've got
Yeah.
five different ones. And what I usually do is the last one is always empty. So I can always switch to like an empty track, which is still keeping in time with the black sequencer, while I either change things over or if I want to switch then the black sequencer to like something more droney and keep the drums out for a while, then it's a really easy trick to do.
Nice.
But I don't know yet. I mean, that's some of the ideas that I have, and another one would just be switch on the fly to load a new bank. But for what I do, having those 5 variations I think is still a lot to get you to 40 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
But part of it is going to be timing. On the Erica Synths, being able to load up a new bank of projects, and that's not something I've experimented with, so I'll have to try that and see how it is switching it, and if it stays live, and I don't have any stuttering issues. Right now, mostly everything I've done, 20, 30 minutes, is using 8 saved projects just on one bank. So Erica, since Robbie will correct me because I might explain it wrong, but you can load up a project, and each project can have 16 different iterations of that, like different patterns saved.
Like patterns
So
per track.
yeah, so no, not per track, patterns per project. So
Okay.
like once if one song is a project, then I can have 16 different variations that I just switch for. Then usually I'm doing like
Okay.
8. I'm usually using 8 to 10 of those. So I'll have to see how to do it where I can change and keep things muted and move over. But everything's in rack. I don't have any outboard gear, that. So
But you're using something else for drums.
I'm using the Metron, W&D Metron.
So like then what I like what I would recommend doing whenever you decide to switch songs is actually like what I tend to do for transitions where I got to do something like that is I have something droning on, whether it's some distortion or some some oscillator just making some noise, and then I just make sure the beat's consistent. So if you still have your kick going at a regular rate, and you can just drop it down to just the kick, and then load up
Right.
the other thing, as long as it doesn't cause a clock signal to go out and mess things up, that can be a good enough transition to allow you that time to load another thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I started trying to do some of that stuff, but I ran into like some of the issues you're alluding to, where if when you load the project, like if the master clock is the thing loading a project, if there's a slight stutter, or like it comes in halfway through the
Right.
the drum sequence or something, like there's a little bit of trickiness to it, but I think totally doable. And if like even if you do come in halfway through the drum sequence, it's fine. Just hit the reset at the right time.
Right. or send a reset signal. Try to
Yeah.
time it. The other problem I have is like with the Zadar is to load the new patterns on that. You have to time it right because it takes a little stutter to load. So
Yeah, I just switched away from Zadar to I still have it, so I may reload it in my rack alongside this, but I just got the quad ADSHR from Moleco. Is it Moleco? What is this thing?
Yeah, I think that's what you got.
Yeah, the quad envelope from Moleco, and I really am enjoying it quite a bit. It's nice, being able to shape the exact thing you want. It's not got all the complexity and coolness that the Zadar has in terms of for if you're doing longer droney things, and that's why I'm not getting rid of my Zadar, and I'll keep a hold of it. But I found that's the one trade-off from going vector from black sequencer is the thing that I loved about the black sequencer is it had built-in little ADSR envelopes that I would use all the time, and not having that, I needed something in the rack where I could quickly manually adjust that, and Zadar didn't really fit that bill. But yeah, that's been working for me. But yeah, that's the one. I think that's one of the few things I don't like about the Zadar is what you're talking about right there, like the kind of like load when you switch stuff up. But that's a great module.
Yeah, and I may just have to learn because I know that the black sequencer I can use the mod outputs for gates, and I might just have to learn how to use that instead. And if I do that, then it should all be timed together.
Yep. All right, I gotta roll, guys. Wife just arrived, and time to pack up the kids to go to the in-laws for a birthday dinner. I mean lunch.
Yeah, fun.
But you guys have a great day. It was great chatting. I'll talk to you guys later.
See you, CK.
Stu J, how is your year without buying gear going? Like,
Honestly,
I did that almost on accident last year.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, I gave myself a no new gear in 22 challenge, and there are some exceptions. So when these happen, I don't want to get called out on it. If something breaks, I can fix. I can pay to fix it or replace it. My wife's allowed to buy me a gift. She hasn't yet, but she's allowed to. And I like to support what the kid puts out, so I'll buy his new module whenever that comes out. And then maybe at the end of the year, but probably not, an MPE controller, like a Linstrument. But I think I'll push that to 2023 as well. And the reason I did it, yeah, it saves money and all that, but it's forcing me to focus on what I've got. And honestly, it's been great. It's been, I will look at new videos. I'll watch the Hapax videos as they all start coming out for sure. But for the most part, I find myself watching more videos about stuff I have already, which I found myself getting into that pattern of watching videos, getting excited, buying a module, doing a couple patches with it, and then I'm watching videos for the next module, getting excited about that, instead of going back and seeing what people are doing with old gear, And for me, it's been great. Like my Instro CSL, like I can now take a week. I just feel like so much less time pressure. I could take a week and just make patches with that and focus on that and really learn the deeper routing options on that thing. And it's been great. So yeah, fun to see what's coming out. There's been very little that's come out I feel like I'm missing out on. Hapax sequencer looks really compelling. That little M8 tracker looks pretty neat. But otherwise, I'm also coming from a position, I have a huge system. So, it's not like the only thing I'm really missing is a dedicated non-digital, non-screen quantizer, right? Like an Instro Harmonig or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that'll probably be the first thing I get next year. But no, it's been good. And
Bartok, you haven't cycled through modules too heavily over the last year, I don't think.
No. I'm pretty happy with what I have. There's been a couple that I've tried just to find something a little different, but one of my rules was actually that I broke was not to go more than this one case, and I doubled it. So I'm pretty much with if I can't carry it with me to play somewhere, then it's not necessary, and I'm trying to really stick to that.
Oh, geez, I can't have that rule. I can barely lift my stuff. Yeah, I mean, to your point, CJ, like, having a lot of Cosmo stuff, I can't watch Loop, any of the reviewers go through and here's how to do a bunch of tricks with your Cosmo oscillator, but I have been watching. I do watch a fair amount of other similar videos. I'll watch some how people use other oscillators or whatever. Just like it's fun to just like get familiar with what you have. I haven't felt a glaring need to buy stuff unless it's like a significant increase in my workflow. Like
Yeah.
the hate packs isn't exciting to me because it's a big sequencer. Like there's actually things I like the pyramid better for, and probably will unless they do an update. But the the thing that kills me about it is the song loading. Like it's really frustrating to load a project up and have playback stop, or um, in some cases I want to like save my state halfway through a performance, like those EMS jams where I started out as a little jam with one sequence, and then halfway through I'm like, there's something here, I want to save it, but like when I save it, stuttered playback and stopped it, like stuff like that just drive me a little crazy. So that was the biggest selling point on it for me. I was like, okay, pyramid workflow, but can do multiple projects. Done.
Yeah.
That's all
And
I
you're
need to
right.
do
Like,
now.
most manufacturers, some things are definitely performative, but I feel like most manufacturers are designing things to be performative alone in your basement, you know?
Yeah. Like
So
when I'm by
it's
myself, I can
refreshing.
switch projects and no one, like, I don't care. Like I'll go
Yeah.
get, I'll go do something else for a second, or like I don't mind dead air.
Yeah.
Um, but like in a performance, you want to like keep it going. Like it's not a rock band where I've got like a hype man or a lead singer that's like, oh, how you doing, Denver? Like I'm
Well,
like,
remember last year, Second Breakfast. Second Breakfast would do these kind of elaborate sets all on
yeah,
Eurorack where there'd be no interruption. It's like 5 songs in a row. And he did that because he literally had freaking 5 Hermods and
yeah,
5 of everything.
yeah.
Like, that's how you accomplish that without a manufacturer taking the time and energy to allow you to load one song while another one's playing, right?
Right. Do
That's
I
how
get
that's
another
how he
pyramid?
accomplished it. Right. Or 4 of them,
Yeah.
like depending on how long you want to go.
Well, I mean, if
So,
you have two, right? Like you can load up the second project,
yeah,
hit
yeah,
stop
yeah,
and
yeah.
go like at the same time, boom, and you're on the second, pyramid, right? And that's
Yeah.
essentially what the Haypack's doing. I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
that's, I mean, the black sequencer, I can save, I can make changes, and while it's playing, I've done that through streams. What I just haven't tried is completely switching the bank that's loaded. But Robbie's
Yeah.
saying that it should be non-interruptive as well. But copying, pasting, I'll be doing that live, and it doesn't interrupt at all.
Yeah, and I mean, that's one of the reasons I like the pyramid, and I'll do a lot of copy paste functions all the time. Like I'll copy a sequence from one to the other, maybe transpose it or something. Or something that's kind of fun is to, like, if I've got a super simple 8-bar sequence where there's a note every quarter note, right? Like I can copy that whole thing and paste it like an eighth of a note in, or like turn it into 16 notes really quickly, just like boom, 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 boom. And all of a sudden you have like uh, the chugging bass, hitting. I don't know. I love that stuff, and it's that stuff is performative and in its own way. But I hate the stopping playback. That's like my biggest,
Yeah.
other than the membranes, but that's the biggest downside with the pyramids. Because like one of the cool things with the pyramid is you can connect, like you have 32 tracks to play with, so like across two MIDI outputs and USB out, so you could have like 64 different instruments or something insane like that, if you really wanted. So I don't know. I love that aspect of it. I don't do that anymore, and it was only necessary when I had the official firmware on the Volca sample,
Hmm.
because Volca sample was each MIDI channel was its own drum. Like, so you had 10 MIDI channels taken up with a single sampler. Unofficial firmware fixed that for me, and then they came out with a sequel that does that too. So yeah, I mean, the Erica Black looks like pretty much what I want. Like, I'm okay with the hay packs for most things. I'm hoping to have like, my dream is to have something like the OPZ or the M8 to like sequence everything from my hand and be like, boop, 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 boop. But the OPZ doesn't like my MIDI to CV, and the M8 doesn't exist in my hands yet. So
Yeah, I do find sequencers for me, maybe it's because my background playing keys, it's important to me that a sequencer has a hands-on outside of the box. I know this is like controversial, but get it out of the box for me. So the reason I like Vector is because of the launchpad integration. And if I'm performing, I want to be jamming on a giant button, giant keys where I don't have to squint. I'm not turning a knob. I'm leaning forward. It's right there like its own
Yeah.
instrument. Like for me, sequencer is all about performance. So that's one nice thing about the new Hapax, whatever it's called. I do like sequencers out of the small Eurorack format.
And I think a good healthy combination of both is fun. Like I built
Yeah.
this, Evil Eye sequencer, which is as stupid as it gets. 8-step sequencer, change directions, all the usual stuff. But like, just having that in the box, like I'm using it for things that I would never like. The Pyramid could put CD out and things like that, but I never bother. Like, it's more fun to
Mhm.
just like dial it in, or like I could make it so that like every time a bar plays, this changes pitch, and I could transpose like I can do a lot of fun stuff with a combination. So I like having the combination, but I think for the
Yeah.
primary sequencer, I'm still an out of the box person. I've only had a couple of days with the Metron, so I don't know for sure yet. But one thing I am noticing is position. Um, because everything's vertical and standing in that box there. I think I have to build something like this
You need
base,
an
like some
angle.
base to raise it
Yeah.
up. Not just for the angle, no, because I actually need the Metron higher. I need it closer to my
Ah.
face. Because right now, some of the really crucial functions, which work flat in front of you at about like table height or something, don't work vertically because like a good example is the fill effects button, which I don't know if you heard that. The fill effects button, which is really important for loops, rolling, muting,
Yeah.
that kind of
I used to
stuff.
have a Metron. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I'm standing, the encoder above it completely covers where it is. Like I can't
Yeah.
see the knob unless I do this, so I need it raised up just a little bit so I can actually use some of those controls, which I'm not used to. So it's going to be a learning curve for me.
For sure.
And I am going to build, like you said, sort of an angled thing like that, but that's going to be filled with performable Cosmo modules, like very, not necessarily sequencers, although the sequencer might fit in there, but more like joysticks or button matrices and stuff like that.
Yeah, I see Robbie and B Bartok mentioned in the comments KeyStep Pro. Yeah, I loved my KeyStep Pro for that reason. It kind of tons of CV outs, a nice keyboard. Um, but I was just running out of space on my desk, and I had to prioritize some other things. And I have found that the Vector with here's the thing for me, KeyStep Pro is great, but I've got keys, I've got keyboards. I've got keyboards, and I wanted to use Vector, and actually wound up selling KeyStep Pro to get the Vector with the Launchpad, and yeah, I don't have any regrets about that. It's been working out just fine. But
Yeah, I
KeyStep
will
Pro is
say,
phenomenal. Could use some work in the generative department. There are tricks to get it to be kind of generative, but to me, the ultimate sequencer would be a combination of Vector and KeyStep Pro, where it's
interesting.
got that generative capability, um, but also you could just really easily play into it.
Wouldn't it be cool if Arturia did like they've done sequencers, like they've got the BeatStep Pro, they've built in
Mhm.
sequencers to the KeyStep and the KeyStep Pro and that whole line, but like a dedicated sort of controller and sequencer, similar to like not similar in design or whatever to Hapax, but I find Arturia does a really good job at sequencing. Like the sequencing on the Drum Brute Impact is fun. The sequencing on the Micro Freak is really fun and intuitive. The fact that they pulled in some of the Micro Freak's cool like spicy stuff into the Pro, I think kind of after the fact, as an
Mhm.
afterthought, is also really cool. Like I think they do a really good job. I I'm with you. Like I don't want more keys. Um, right now, purely for functional reasons, like while I'm writing stuff on this box here that's got the microfreak in it. I'm using the microfreak's keyboard in the non-local mode, so it actually can't control the microfreak unless I tell the pyramid to point that way. I'm doing that to like write stuff quickly. Once I'm ready for the live performance, I'm going to disable that, because one of the funny things about it is if I disable local control, I can't actually even use the cutoff filter on the microfreak until I turn that back on. But I'm hoping the HeyPack sort of eliminates the need for keys for me. Like, I really like keys. I think it's the most intuitive way to program stuff. Like, one of my go-to is to have a keyboard next to the pyramid, push a button while in the sequence mode, and then I'd be like, all of these are that button, all of these are that key, right? Push another key, now do that, and that's an easy way to do chords and sequences and stuff like that. The HeyPacks hopefully will eliminate that, because it's big enough. I hated on the pyramid that you have one octave and you have to like go down 10 octaves or like remember where you are.
I mean, I'll even take, I always keep this handy, just a key step, and
never
I'll hook it up. Never. I'll hook it up to the Digitac. I'll hook it up to the Vector. I'll hook it up to anything when I need a keyboard. It's just right here. It's so easy.
You know what I want? I want an 88 key version of that keyboard, right? Like no added features. Yes, I don't know what that is, but send me the link.
It's got added feature. It's the Arturia Key Lab.
I have the Key Lab. I hate the Key Lab.
Really?
Hate it. I have the OG
I use it
one.
for orchestral. Like when I do like scoring work, I'll use that. I don't use it for Eurorack stuff at all.
Yeah, so let me talk about the Key Lab very briefly.
Okay, I'm intrigued here. I love it.
Original generation, and the keyboard is phenomenal. They're like Fatar keys or something, right?
Solid.
Like it feels really nice to play if you like pianos, which is a little different than synths, and I'm not, I could go either way. I don't care. That keyboard is nice. The MIDI, like, I want to be able to quickly switch MIDI channels, and it's so convoluted to do that quickly.
No, it's not.
It is. It is, because you have to like. It's designed for
MIDI,
like paths, and you like gotta go through like it's so janky.
No, maybe yours is different. There's a button that says MIDI channel. You hold that, and then you got your 16 channels: MIDI 7, MIDI 8, MIDI 11, MIDI 12, just like that.
Yeah, it's not as simple as that. It's super convoluted with mine. I've tried that. I've tried every trick.
Maybe you have an older model or something.
It's the first gen. The newer one I think is better.
Okay. Yeah, mine's pretty easy in that regard.
I don't actually care about any of the knobs or pads, so that's why I was like, I just want the keyboard.
Yeah.
Because I don't
even pull it. This desk it pulls out, and I don't even pull it out far enough to see the knobs or pads. I don't even care, because if I do that, I'm sitting way too far away from what I'm looking at. So, I just picked up this in 2022. I'm sorry, 2021, before my No New Gear, the Akai MIDI mix, so I could quickly map MIDI to any of these knobs and have it closer, so I don't have to pull it.
That's an area of products I haven't played around with too much in terms of integration with this monster. Like I saw on the recent HeyPacks video from Red Meats Recording, or Jeremy, that he had something called a Fader Fox, which was just like 60 knobs or something.
Yep.
That kind of appeals to me. That might be fun in like a pseudo permanent setup. But
I see a lot of people perform with them when they're performing with like Ableton, so they can map some MIDI controls and have a physical device. It's pretty handy for that.
And there's stuff I can do. Like there's a ton of MIDI outs on my MIDI to CV. There's lots of integrations you can do with MIDI to control other devices. So it'd be pretty fun to try something like that. I think, but I am my 88 key keyboard is the number one thing on my get rid of list right now. I'm thinking of actually buying like, I don't know, entry to mid level like electric piano that has MIDI out.
Oh, like a Nord or something?
Yeah, something like that, right? Like where my because my partner plays piano and she would like to like come in and jam on it. But right now, like with the MIDI thing, you gotta like turn my computer on, like open live and like open a VST and like be on the right MIDI channel and like turn all my other gear on so that the through on the MIDI all works right and like like if it's an electric piano with the MIDI that I could switch channels pretty easily, like that's good enough for me because then just plug in headphones, play the piano. Or I could just never get the audio.
Yeah, there are tons of those. Like you could get a great Yamaha that's so basic but has
Yeah.
MIDI out, and and their keyboards are incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, give me like whatever. They probably have like 30 voices each, or 30 different like pianos each, or like some cat sound or something. Anyway, that's what I'm thinking of doing as an alternative to the 88 key. It won't be as nice of a key bed, but I think it'll do what I want.
Yeah.
Because right now I really, really dislike using it.
I could tell.
Because it's very much designed with like professional piano players that are thoroughly integrated with Ableton, particularly their studio, like are comfortable with like split keyboard setups. It's a very good split keyboard thing.
Yeah, like I said, for me, that thing's for almost exclusively for orchestral programming, like playing violins with the right hand and tubas with the left or whatever it is. But I don't, if I'm putting keys on Eurorack, it's that little Arturia key step for sure.
Yep. So
B. Bartok, do you use keyboard?
Yeah, I have the little key step here.
Oh yeah.
And yeah. So I use that mostly like when I'm trying to come up with something. I'll just have that going MIDI to CV and then run it through a specific voice. And then once I find, something that I like, then I'll program that into the black sequencer, and then I'll then have that running while I then move it to another voice and then try to find like the bass or whatever.
Cool. Very cool.
But
your setup.
It's mostly just to find.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's mostly just to kind of like find, like fine tune whatever I'm working on and try to, and then once I have it set, I don't perform with it. It's just to mess around, and then I'll kind of save the patterns on the sequencer or the notes. But yeah, this is the same setup I've had for, I'd say 2 years now.
Wow. That's what you performed on that at Antone's house, right? When we did the SoCal. Yeah, I recognize that. It was really great.
Zoe left a comment in the chat. Like, one of the downsides of turning off gas is realizing how much money you spend on chords, and the other stuff you've sort of been sitting on. And I've got to reiterate, like, it's so expensive to buy cables. Like, I always forget about it until I'm like checking out, but it's so expensive. And they're worth it. Like, I have these really nice Patchworks cables. Let's see, this from Bartok. That Bartok color matched to my other cables, which I'm super stoked about. But like, cables are so expensive, and I'm already finding like in this new room, like, I need a TRS cable that reaches all the way around the room in a big C shape that's like 8 inches shorter than what 8 inches longer than what I already have. So like, here's a good example. Right now, what you're listening to is coming through this 1/4 inch female to female to 1/4 inch to 3.5 millimeter adapters on each end because I ran out of I ran out of all of those pieces. So like, it's so expensive to get all the cabling right. And even just like setting this up, I wanted some shorter MIDI cables inside there just for routing purposes to take up less space so there's more foam. And those are, it adds up.
Yeah.
It's good to take a year off from buying any major purchases. This is not that year for me. I've been very irresponsible in the first few months of this year. I finished, had some nudging from Bartok. I finished this Eurorack case. That's Cosmos size, so it's giant. I put in a really good power supply, which pricey, got some cables, pricey. Got
Yeah.
too many WMD modules at once, also pricey, and some other stuff. So yeah.
By the way, I'm gonna have to jump in about 13 minutes.
Yeah,
Sorry
I was
about
going to
that.
wrap this up. I think we've gone over
Oh,
time a
okay.
little bit. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, yeah,
Yeah, but
patchwork cables. So good.
cables. It's one of those things. I was at a Perfect Circuit a couple weeks ago, and somebody was buying some stuff, and they go and they're like, "What are the cheapest cables you got?" And I'm always like, "We're spending so much money to on our gear and trying to hopefully we're trying to make something, get some, and it's like and you cheap out on these cables that you later end up replacing because they've worn out and they don't have they can't last as long. Um, or some of the cables I've torn apart, like the plugs, they use metal that's so thin that just snaps if you bend it too many times.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's expensive, but it's worth it to get good cables.
Yeah, for sure. Reliable cables.
Yeah, and I cheaped out at first too. Like I think that's a good. I think when you're first dipping your toe in synth waters or Euro rack, it's cheap out on what you can. Like it's you're gonna have to buy more down the line, but they're okay right out of the gate. If you're at what's the name of that store you just mentioned?
Perfect Circuit.
If you're at Perfect Circuit and you're buying a Matrix Brute or a Poly Brute, get a good cable. You're dropping $2K on a synth, just treat it nice.
Yeah. Take care of the expensive car that you've bought. Put some decent gas in it,
Yeah, right.
Or
So,
change the oil now and then.
Right.
You can handle an extra week of ramen or whatever you need to make up for it. That's what I'm doing right now. I gotta save some because between the hay packs, the WMD, and the M8, no more purchases for me for a while. And I'm already thinking, as I'm starting to build a Eurorack system, I already need this. I already need Y. It'd be nice to have a MIDI to trigger, module, that kind of stuff. So I'll have to sit on those for several months.
Yeah. I was going to say,
Alright,
speaking of WMD, I was just going to say a shout out. I really love, I went to NobCon last year and I bought the Kraken, or at least ordered it there. That thing is great.
Yeah.
Snare module. It does so much more than that. It's just wanted to give a little shout out to that module.
Yeah, let's see here. Full effects, mute everything but that module. I just you won't be able to hear it because I have the room. Anyway, I just got the Kraken. It's the Kraken and the Metron were the two things that I really wanted because the Kraken is a very interesting drum. I picked up a couple others as well. The performance mixer is kind of interesting to me, but expect lots of annoying panning from me in the future.
Oh, did you get the performance mixer?
Yeah, I got the performance mixer, Metron, Crater, and Kraken.
I'd say the performance mixer is the most important module I've got.
Yeah.
Maybe Pam's workout, but performance mixer, it's everything goes through that thing. That thing is, you could just crush on it. It's so great.
Well, yeah, and one of the things that I'm trying to do is start with what I'm lacking, which I would love, basically an in the rack drum root in terms of performable drum sounds or tweakable, and that's sort of what I have. And you need a mixer for that, to put eight drums into one mix, and rather than getting starting with the Erica Synths drum mixer or something like that, might as well just get a proper mixer because I know I'm going to need it for other stuff. So, and I'll probably will at some point need a drum mix, but one thing at a time. So yeah, and Alex hooked me up. I got a B stock Metron.
Oh, sweet!
Oh, nice.
Right on.
Yeah.
Go, Alex.
So thank you. Let's see. I'm gonna do a quick. Check out CK Sample in Austin, April 20th. If you're in Denver, I'll be performing at the Black Box on the 18th of this month. And anyone else have anything they want to bump? I don't even care what you bump.
Patchwork cables.
Patchwork cables. Represent.
some of
you
us in
understand how
SoCal
much I
are.
like these cables. Like I haven't expressed it well enough. Like here are these big 1/4-inch cables that I love from, I think they're Seismic Audio or something, right? These are my patchwork cables. They're the same, just smaller. Yeah.
It looks like it's not official yet, but it's probably going to be April 30th. There's going to be a SoCal streaming event. Nobody's been invited to it yet. We don't know who's performing yet, but some of us are putting something together. So stay tuned for that.
April 30th. I wonder if I can be in SoCal around there. I might try.
Come, absolutely. Come, for sure. We'll take care of
Yeah. All right. Thank you for watching, everybody. Thank you, CK,
Yeah.
CJ, and Bartok for joining.
Well,
Thank you.
Glad
Thank
we
you.
got
Yeah,
to
for sure.
nerd out about sequencers for an hour and a half. I still don't have the perfect
Take it easy.
one, but close. All right, I want to
Yeah.
play some. I'm not even gonna play us out. Have a good weekend, y'all.